NIC की ओर से टेक कॉन्क्लेव 2022 के उद्घाटन सत्र में आप सभी का हार्दिक स्वागत। We welcome Dr. Rajendra Kumar, Additional Secretary MIT. A very warm welcome to you, sir. We welcome Dr. Anand Deshpande, Founder, Chairman and Managing Director, Persistent Systems. We welcome Ms. Daisy Chittilapalli, President Cisco. Welcome Dr. Nita Verma, DG NIC with the Green Initiative, a potted plant.
And please put your hands together on the ceremonial inauguration of the Tech Conclave 2022.
Participants abreast of the fast-changing technological landscape and help them deliver high-quality digital services to citizens. Also provides for an ideal platform for interaction and exchange of ideas regarding the ICT best practices being adopted by the industry. Nita Verma, Director General of the National Informatics Center, to kindly begin the proceedings with her welcome address. Please put your hands together to welcome.
Honorable Minister of State for Skill Development and Entrepreneurship and Electronics and Information Technology, Shri Rajiv Chandrasekhar ji. Respected Secretary Telecom and MIT, Shri K. Rajaraman. Additional Secretary MIT, Dr. Rajendra Kumar. Our esteemed speakers from industry, Dr. Anand Deshpande and Daisy Chittilapalli. Senior officers from government, head of institutions of MIT, my colleagues from NIC, NIC, MIT, and all present and connected over webcast, ladies and gentlemen. It is my proud privilege to welcome you all to Tech Conclave 2022. This event is very special for us as it is our first in-person event post-pandemic. And we are meeting our colleagues from NIC State Centers after a long gap of 2 years. NIC, as you know, has been the technology partner of government in building digital solutions and provision of state-of-the-art IT infrastructure. With our network of 800 plus offices across the country, broadband networks, mobile apps, digital payments, cloud infrastructure, and vibrant startup ecosystem leading to a whole lot of technology-led innovation around us. We are grateful to our Minister who has been constantly encouraging us to work on building blocks of digital government and digital platforms. I thank Secretary Telecom and MIT for his gracious presence. I also thank Additional Secretary MIT for being with us today. With privilege also comes responsibility. And we at NIC are fully cognizant of the fact that we need to be continuously enriching our digital government platforms and solutions with cutting-edge technologies with the ultimate mission of empowering the common man. Many capacity building initiatives have been taken to enrich the knowledge base of NIC employees on a regular basis. Tech Conclave 2022 is also a step in this direction. This year, our Technology Advisory Group of NIC, led by Mr. Pawan Joshi, DDG NIC, and Rachna Srivastava, DDG NIC, have lined up power-packed sessions on next tech technologies by eminent speakers from the industry. And sir, in the morning, we had very interesting three sessions and very enlightening talks. I am thankful to our keynote speakers today in this session, Dr. Anand Deshpande and Daisy Chittilapalli, for being with us today and sharing their thoughts on next tech technologies for digital government.
Electronics and Information Technology से कि वे digital technology पर अपने विचार साझा करें.
The theme for this year's Tech Conclave couldn't have been more relevant, especially in the current post-pandemic world where we are seeing much greater adoption of digital, both in our personal as well as professional lives. As a result of this new normal that we are seeing all around, not only in India but also internationally, India's tech sector is getting a massive boost, and our capabilities, especially in net technologies, are being recognized the world over. And this gives us a huge opportunity to really capitalize on this emerging scenario and make India the global hub for not only digital government, but also in terms of venturing into new areas, which so far we have not really been able to succeed or do it that well. So this includes product development in these areas, also encouraging our startup ecosystem, which already is going at a phenomenal pace, especially in the last couple of years, and ensuring that all the stakeholders, including those in the private sector, in the government, both at central and state levels, they support this emerging ecosystem very effectively in these platforms. We already are seeing very effective use of these building blocks in creating very large systems and applications and going live in the shortest possible time. This needs to be really addressed even more effectively, and some areas like authentication through single sign mechanism, also ensuring that the access to the citizens to be made more seamless through unifying all the current different interfaces and different applications available. All these need to be addressed. And I'm sure that with the effort that METI is really spearheading now in this domain, we are working with all the government departments very closely in building these large platforms. Coming time are very exciting for all of us, especially for METI, which is dealing with all these domains in a very focused and in a very effective manner. I'm sure with entities that METI has, NIC and other organizations, we would be able to visualize the future growth of this entire digital governance that is extremely important to really take this further. I wish all the very best to all the participants in this event, both for today's sessions and tomorrow.
Secretary, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology and Department of Telecommunications से कि वे आने वाली डिजिटल तकनीकियों पर अपने विचार साझा करें। एक बार जोरदार तालियों के साथ स्वागत करते हैं सेक्रेटरी NIC श्री के राजारामन जी का।
Honorable Minister for State for Skill Development, Entrepreneurship, Electronics and Information Technology, Shri Rajiv Chandrasekhar ji, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Electronics and IT, Dr. Rajendra Kumar ji, esteemed guest speakers, Dr. Anand Deshpande ji, senior officers from the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, other ministries, NIC, NIC, and other esteemed participants in this program. So all of you are here for the annual conference, which is a time for brainstorming and contemplating on what were the successes, what were the failures, what could have been done better, what could have been done differently. So I think this annual conferences are times when I think we meet people who have achieved something significant. And I'm sure that you will be listening to presentations from your own colleagues, maybe from the industry, and so on and so forth. So which will enable you to think laterally, think differently, and think about a future in a completely informal environment. And I'm sure that this conclave is definitely going to serve as an opportunity to devise new ways of working, new things that can be done for the citizens of India. So it's a very interesting book which talks about how asset utilization can be enhanced through very simple techniques. So that we see that in daily lives. So NIC is the government's what do you say, digital brain, you would say that. So because you have developed so many applications, so many platforms, and so on and so forth. So if you look at government, I think government spends a lot of money on a huge number of resources. I think resources which are physical assets, which are virtual assets, and so on and so forth. So essentially, the utilization of the assets revolve around how you manage them. Electric monitors its assets, which are sold to other companies, including jet engines and so on and so forth. So the General Electric collects information on a daily basis, I think, and then enables what is known as predictive maintenance, and enables the asset to be handled properly, maintained properly before it fails. So essentially what the private sector has been doing for a long time is to actually ensure how we can utilize its assets effectively. Similarly, I think you have seen a lot of examples in the recent times very much, like for instance even Ola for that matter, I think, or any of these app taxis. All of them work on a principle that if they can come on a platform, assets can be utilized better. So essentially, if you are a single taxi owner on a road, your taxi might get called maybe for say 30% of the time. But if you are on an app, it can be virtually like you can do a 24-hour round. So the asset utilizations change transformatively. So I'm sure that all these examples around us can inspire us to see how asset utilization within government can actually go to the next level. Essentially, what we would be doing by ensuring that you develop a new range of platforms which can enable effective utilization of assets, you would be actually saving government thousands of crores of rupees. I'm just giving an example. A couple of years ago, when I was director of the Entrepreneurship Development Institute in Tamil Nadu, I used to visit many of the scientific labs just to look at how our scientific equipment are used. Once I did go to a university where a 10 crore traveling electron microscope was installed through a Government of India grant. So I asked them what percentage of the time is this TEM used. They said about 5% of the time. So it's a national waste that an asset which is there, where the government has spent so much money, is used only for 5%. So a simple solution would be for platformization of these assets. So I'm just leaving this thought with you. If this could be shared with others, you could bring them on the platform. And then you can provide assets as a service, basically. If you can provide scientific equipment as a service, if you can provide vehicles as a service, you can provide anything as a service for that matter. So then probably, so therefore I would request the Director General NIC and her team to actually work over the next several months to see how you can work with scientific ministries, work with all those infrastructure ministries on driving up asset utilization through platformization. So if you read the book on sharing economy, it bounds with examples. Talk of any domain, there are examples. So I'm sure that your imagination can run riot on where all probably these efficiencies of shared economy can be extracted. So this is the first thought I would leave with you. With a whole host of technologies which I'm sure that our colleagues here from the private sector would like to talk. We have artificial intelligence, IoT, Aadhaar, I think which is an identity tool, then mobile phone. That's the biggest asset every citizen has. So putting all this together and your applications, I think it must really lead to a kind of smartness which probably spans every ministry, whether it's state or central government. So I think designing such systems is probably a big challenge, and I'm sure that with all your intelligence and your experience, you should be able to do that. Spanning startups, spanning the academia, the research institutions is something which I think all of us must adopt as a fundamental way of working. So I would request that this collaboration mentality must spread out to every one of our development units to ensure that whatever we do is best in class. The last thought I would like to leave with you is today, I think the biggest challenge before India, especially on NIC, because since NIC, I'm a user of NIC systems, and I think U office and so on and so forth. I mean, I'm a grateful user, definitely. I must say that because I think the e-office has been really transformative and great success. I think we must all thank NIC officers for developing such a wonderful tool. So the biggest ability to crack your password using quantum computing, I think then it's all child's play. So with a couple of countries probably some ahead of us, I think we must ensure that the great security of our systems is ensured. So I would request NIC to work very intensively with the best of our scholars, with academicians and others to ensure that the layers of security that are built over our common use applications like e-office, video conference, etc. is raised to the next level, that it leaves very little to be unanswered. So we have a team of officers for having organized this conference. I wish the conference all success. Thank you.
Chairman and Managing Director of Persistent Systems since the dawn of the organization and is accountable for the holistic leadership strategy and management of the company. देवियों सज्जनों, अब की नोट एड्रेस के लिए आमंत्रित करना चाहेंगे हमारे सम्मानित अतिथि डॉक्टर आनंद देशपांडे जी को। एक बार तालियों के साथ स्वागत करते हैं डॉक्टर आनंद देशपांडे।
Thank you. So, Honorable Minister of State Shri Rajiv Chandrasekhar, Secretary Shri K. Rajaraman Ji, Additional Secretary Dr. Rajendra Kumar, my co-panelist or speaker today, Daisy Chitlipalli from Cisco, and my friend Anita Verma for inviting me here and for being here for us. Actually, I was here at another NIC event, which was the first NIC Tech Conclave. And could I have my slides, please? During the first Next Gen Tech Conclave, and I'm really delighted to have been invited again today. So I think I'm very happy to come back. And it's even more exciting because for the last 2 years, I have not really traveled. So this is my first trip to Delhi after 2.5, 3 years, and I'm really happy to get out of home and be here with you in person. So thank you for inviting me. Before I got started in this thing, when Nita called me saying, hey, I want you to do something, I wasn't sure what I should say because I've been doing less technology for the last few years. I've moved off my CEO job and I've been doing other things as I look ahead. But I got a very nice presentation from Mr. Joshi where he sent all the work that NIC has done. And I tried collecting some of this. And I also tried looking at some of your comparable companies and other things. I found at least 8 unicorns that you are competing with when you look at the numbers that you have. So if you look at the sizes of your businesses, the number of people who touch for the applications that NIC has written, I think if you were to compare them in the private sector, you will find at least 8 companies who are unicorn level today. And that's the extent to which NIC has been doing this work. So I want to commend you to start with this. And I think the government can do well by looking at NIC to be a profit center rather than as a cost center. Because you really have some fantastic assets which can be exploited and, I shouldn't say exploited, but definitely leveraged for real benefits for the citizens. So now with all this stuff, right, what am I supposed to say today? So anyway, first let me congratulate VCs, telepresence equipment to Aarogya Setu to hundreds of such things. So congratulations really for the great work you all do. And it's an honor to be here in front of all of you. I know NIC's contribution has been very relevant for both government and for the benefits of the residents of the country. But for the last few years, I've been thinking a lot about the entrepreneurs in our country. And I think if I were to suggest to NIC what they should think about next, I think you should think about the nano entrepreneurs. They are the ones who are creating jobs, and I looked through your list of hundreds of these apps. There aren't that many that really touch these small entrepreneurs. And that's really the place where jobs are going to happen. And we also have a minister here from skill development and entrepreneurship which touches that area. You know, what you are doing today and most of the day today is about current technology. So I'm going to spend a few minutes trying to share with you what may be relevant in the next 5 years. So I believe really nano entrepreneurs are the place where jobs are going to happen. The large companies need to automate and improve their efficiency effectively, reduce the number of people required for the same job. But and we have at least 25 million people at every age. So if you look at it any which way, you need about 15 million jobs every year. And there is no way, no government, no large company can create these jobs. These jobs have to come on the ground, and they have to come by enabling and empowering these very small businesses to make this work. And this is where I think NIC can have a multiplying effect. And that's what I want to spend a few minutes on. And we need not just jobs, we need good quality jobs. And that is that, it's very clear that each job must pay at least 20,000 rupees for what they are doing. And we need a situation where all our citizens are not at the borderline of survival, but are really thriving. And we have found that if you get past this number, then you get into the positive spiral that you can get something good to happen. And for the last 5 to 7 years now, I've been working on this foundation that I set up personally called Deyasra Foundation, where we are really focused on these very small businesses. And we have helped more than 135,000 entrepreneurs with a mission to get to more than a few million very soon. So we have built a platform where we are eliminating these barriers for entrepreneurs. So we have research around what are the pain points, what is holding these entrepreneurs back, and how do we make them very successful. And I'm going to share with you very quickly a little bit about what their pain points are, so that give you a chance of putting your technology to address their pain points. One thing I want to suggest here is that when we look at SMBs in India, we look at SMBs as anything up to 250 crores. But that's a very, very wide number. And if you look at of those SMBs, almost 97% of them are below 1 crore. So one of the things I'm trying to suggest is that we need to start thinking of nano entrepreneurs as those between 20 lakhs and 1 crore. 20 lakhs is the GST limit, so these guys are not running very small businesses, they are running decent businesses, but they are not really well supported in any which way as we go along. Really access to credit. It's very difficult for businesses like a photographer or a beauty salon to get 15 lakh, 20 lakh rupee loans from the government sector today, or organized banks. It's just not possible. Access for the next 5 years, so that we can address some of these problems, and hopefully we'll do something for these small businesses, and eventually we might see some action that could be useful for others as well. So clearly, I think the number one issue that NIC has already been working on but needs to do more, or will have to continue to do more, is around data and machine learning. And the second part is these applications and APIs. And I'm going to spend a little bit of time, and actually the secretary set me up really well when we talked about first digital platformization stuff, sharing economy, and all of those things. I'm going to comment a little bit on that. I think metaverse, despite the buzz that you might hear, I think is real. Okay? So there is an opportunity for us to look at what would this metaverse mean for the small businesses, and what can NIC do to make that happen. I am a big believer on the Web3 crypto stuff. I've been spending the last 1 year just reading about all this. And I believe that this is another technology that we should not run away from. It's time that we really invest time in figuring out what this is and how to leverage it for the benefit of the small and medium businesses. And finally, this was also mentioned by the secretary regarding the security and privacy. So I'm going to share just a few ideas on this. I know you are already working on many of them, but I thought it would be good to put them in one place. So in terms of data and machine learning, of course, everybody is talking about machine learning everywhere, and everything is machine learning. I think one of the areas that I saw NIC is focused on, which I think is very important for us in India, and especially for the small businesses, is support for Indian languages. And I think with the new technologies that are available, it is now possible to support multiple languages concurrently and together through automatic translations or various other technology solutions that we have today. So we don't have to run away from this as well. We don't have to do something crazy, but this is here and now, and we need to deploy this in all our applications in a very big way. And one of the things that I want to mention here is that I look at NIC, and as I said that already, that I don't look at NIC just as a e-governance provider for the government, but just providing through NIC the rails that are needed for these next generation applications, and that is really where I see NIC's role. So I think this is a place where we should do work, is text analytics and other things around data stuff. The second area, of course, is AI for, so I think a lot of discussion happens with respect to data. Everybody who has data wants to put dashboards and screens and all kinds of things. I think the days for dashboards are done. Dashboards are kind of useless in my opinion. I think we have moved to a world where AI needs to provide you data for decision making. Dashboards don't give you ability to make decisions. They show you everything in one place, but that's not very useful. What you need is, you need data to come to you so that you can do something actionable and you have actionable insights with you. So that's really what I'm promoting here. And finally, you need very good quality data, and that is a big problem in India. And I think we should use some broad programs, including citizen inclusion programs or otherwise, to do citizen science to see how we can get better quality data that can be made available for research and for next generation of applications. Let me move to the next one. People talk about platformization and other things about bringing things together. I believe the world is not going to be about bringing one database together, but it's going to be about creating the right levels of interfaces like APIs so that you can access the data from wherever it exists. And today's next generation AI now is in a position to do this kind of stuff. And I think there is an opportunity to think about it differently. As they say that, once you, in the first version of new technology deployment, you use technology to solve things that you know already. The next generation of technology is all about not just doing things better, but doing better things. And that's sort of where the discussion needs to move now. And I believe that simplification of processes and making them easy to use through the leveraging of technology, good quality data and machine learning are really important. Government has a lot of data, but you don't want to necessarily just make it available. Use it judiciously so that we can put benefits to the thing without compromising individual privacy and various other aspects. So those are equally important as where we need to go. I think metaverse is something that people talk a lot about, but I think it is real. I think there is an opportunity for us to leverage metaverse in a big way by creating the necessary rails and infrastructure for small businesses. I believe small businesses can be on metaverse to sell their wares and products, and I think there could be a very interesting marketplace that we can create in this new world that is happening. Also, I believe that augmented reality in some form or the other can be an extremely good educational tool for us. It can be used in tourism and various other areas as well. So I think there are a lot of new opportunities that will come around this whole concept of metaverse. And I think NIC can do another service by trying to tag or look at physical things and see how they can transfer into metaverse, so that when you are between, the reality is going to be, yes, you'll have a metaverse which the gamers have had for the last many years, but there's also a physical world. The fact that the physical world and the virtual world are colliding into the metaverse is what makes it very exciting. And this is something where I think some standardization of activities can really help in getting this going. As I said, I spent the last 1 year just reading about crypto, and I'm really convinced that we are into this world of tokenization of everything that's going to happen. We are looking at very interesting tokens. Actually, the reason I got very interested in this area was when I saw some very interesting examples of how people are using some of these techniques, specifically around decentralized finance, to see how to make loans available for very small businesses. And some of the various techniques that can be leveraged in this whole DeFi for small businesses, I think there are some fantastic opportunities. I think there is always cryptocurrency, and I think I would highly encourage NIC to spend time in investing in not just the blockchain or the components, but looking at how decentralized finance could be the way to go. What do we see about programmable money and how this might move in the future? And I'm quite happy to come back again and spend some time sharing what I've learned in this topic at another time. So there is a lot of action in this area, disintermediation of the intermediary creator economy, and there is a lot of interesting things that are happening that I think are super relevant for Indians in the small business area. And I think NIC can play a huge role in how we look at this in the future. Again, I don't want to spend too much time on security and privacy. This was mentioned several times. I don't need to explain to you about this. But I think the complexity of security and privacy is going to continue to increase as we look ahead in this whole metaverse and all these tokens and crypto and all that. So a lot of these new techniques now are becoming harder to decrypt as well. And so you have to be careful and see how to do it. And I just want to mention this one more time that privacy is another very important thing. And the key to ensuring privacy is not to just have one part of it, but making sure that the tail, this is the long tail that we have, citizens who are in the corner cases of various situations are also protected. And we are not doing only things for the masses, but everyone is included in this thing. So when we talk about inclusion, I want to include privacy of the overall citizens as part of this inclusion requirement. So I had 15 minutes, so this is the best I could do for you, but I'm happy to take any questions you might have at a later time. This is not the best. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we have with us on the desk Ms. Daisy, of experience in the technology industry, including 17 years of leadership experience at Cisco. She has a proven track record of transforming operations and cultures to drive growth at scale. Ms. Daisy most recently held the position of Managing Director for Cisco's Digital Transformation Office, where she worked with customers to capitalize on opportunities emerging in the digital world. And may I now invite Ms. Daisy Chitilapilli for her keynote address. Over to you.
Very much for the generous introduction. Can I have my slides up, please? Upending traditional systems, creating new rules, causing disruptions. And yes, there is a lot of chaos, but that chaos is also transformative in many ways. And it's pushing. While that is the case, there is also the conundrum of resource shortages. As a country, we are no stranger to this conversation. Of our society, in the nook and corner of our country, to be brought into the workforce as well. The other thing that is happening because of work getting redefined is new business models are emerging. Us going online in a big way and work getting redefined is also leading to redefined business models. Everybody from a Kirana store owner to a small farmer to a large conglomerate like Tata has taken use of a digital app to do more sales than they have ever done before. And this is small Kirana store to a large factory is getting automated and automated at speed. Again, a consideration for us as a country which is looking to create jobs. The World Economic Forum has already called out that robots will do more, or machines will do more work than humans as early as 2025. And so for every country that's looking to create jobs with youth, which is almost at 50% of the population, the opportunity is to create jobs which are more cerebral in nature, and whether it is by choice or by necessity, every country, including us, will have to be a bigger knowledge economy than we already are. And while all of these trends are, of course, looking for better, it's all in the direction of progress. I think there is increasing consciousness. The most important thing to understand and probably acknowledge is that as individuals, as businesses, as government, we all understand that progress in isolation means nothing. I think Secretary Rajaraman talked about it. So today, I think the reason for that is because today the time we have the tools, the technology, and more than anything else, perhaps the intent to use technology for greater good. Technology can, of course, create economic prosperity. It can revolutionize traditional sectors like manufacturing, agriculture, other sectors to become more profitable and more productive. It can bring, like I said before, more women and marginalized people into the workforce. And it can, through digitally delivered services like healthcare, education, financial services, insurance, credit, etc., ensure citizen welfare. From a deeper, more strategic perspective, it can also allow us to scale and create innovative models, not just for our country, but also for the world. And as I mentioned earlier, it can of course lead to a lot of investment making its way to India. The challenge in front of all of us is how do we make this happen? How do we transform India to become a true knowledge economy or a global powerhouse? And the way I see it, there are 5 broad areas that need attention. I'm not talking about technologies. I had a feeling Dr. Anand would cover them, so I'm going to talk about the 5 pillars for progress or transformation. The first thing to get right is infrastructure. And infrastructure, yes, we all know the physical infrastructure pieces. We have to get our power situation right, we have to get our logistics right. But there's also this concept of digital infrastructure. As we digitize, as we create more data, as businesses and governments become more reliant on better data, it's important to look at digital infrastructures. And data centers are a great example. Data centers, we need efficient data centers to power applications, to power all those brilliant citizen applications that NIC is developing. NIC has also built some of the best world-class data centers foreseeing this requirement. So that is a need that will continue to exist. In fact, there's a report by JLL which says that data center capacity in India will double in the next 12 months. And that's an outcome. It's really the internet. And we need to make sure that we have connectivity at the granular level so that everyone has access to all of the emerging opportunities that the new world brings. So I think I'm preaching to the choir here because NIC has been running massive government networks for years with NICnet and other, with the Knowledge Network and so on. BharatNet has pushed the envelope forward in terms of moving the connectivity to the remote corners of the country, and it's great to see it mentioned as a project of importance in the fiscal budget this year. Thing to note, while the internet is changing and evolving at speed. In fact, in the close room outside, we were having a conversation about just that. So as more devices and people are connecting at a speed and scale that we've never seen before, there is a need to build a very reliant, very robust, very scalable infrastructure and architecture so that we can onboard people and devices at scale, we can provide fast connectivity, and we can provide secure connections to applications for everyone. If there's a NASSCOM Zinnov study out there which talks about a shortage of 1.9 million techies in India, bulk of that in emerging areas like AI, ML, IoT, cybersecurity, etc. So if we need actually no less than a skilling revolution, we have to get in front of this and make India the digital capital of the world. Example from Cisco, we in participation with the government ministry as well as multiple industry bodies since our inception have run a pro bono skilling exercise in the country called NIC Tech. And right now it has skilled to date about 10.5 lakh students. That is interesting. 1/3 of it, both in terms of instructor population as well as students, are women. So that tells you about the inclusion aspect of it. But perhaps the most impressive statistic about that program is that students certified in that program have a 95% employability rate. For a country that is looking to create jobs, I think that is programs like that at scale, coming together of industry, government and companies is what partnerships. And all of this is important, otherwise we will not be able to create meaningful governance for the future and an inclusive future for our people. And then maybe just a conversation about the role of NIC, because this is, our association with NIC has been also perhaps as long as our association with India. In between that has been doing it for many years. And I think it takes a lot to get it done at the scale at which operations NIC has been driving government initiatives in the country. For instance, displaying very visionary leadership in identifying the potential of technologies like AI, like data analytics and blockchain, and setting up centers of excellence and inviting industry to be a part of these centers of excellence. You're also facilitating participatory administration, allowing citizens to participate in decision making and voice opinions through the MyGov platform, the UGD platform, and through Darpan. And you're also making sure that there is effective regulation and operations around things like e-courts, transportation platforms, hospital platforms, and so on. But I think the most promising opportunity for NIC is that your workforce is completely entrenched in the digital universe. You understand technology, you understand the implications of technology in the new world. And so there is this is a very vital element of building new capabilities for the country. And I think you are naturally blessed by your origin, by your evolution, to be sitting with a group of very smart people. I think Dr. Anil talked about it, that can take, he also said you're equivalent to 8 startups, unicorns in the country. So take that intelligence to the next level and create establish the next level of capabilities that can create impact at scale. So in closing, I just want to say that we know that the road ahead of us
Ladies and gentlemen, after the release of the book by the Honorable Minister, Citizen Empowerment through Digital Transformation in Government. It takes us through the 4-decade-long transformational journey of various key sectors in India where ICT has played a major role in reimagining government services to citizens across the country. Filled with real-life transformation stories that have helped to lead the people and the Government of India to realize their vision of a digitally empowered nation. And this book has just been released by the Honorable Minister at the occasion of the NIC Tech Conclave 2020. Thank you very much indeed. And ladies and gentlemen,
Dr. Anand Deshpande, Ms. Daisy Chitlapalli, Secretary Rajaraman, Additional Secretary Dr. Rajendra Kumar, DG Dr. Nita Verma and friends. Thank you first of all to Dr. Nita Verma for arranging this Tech Conclave. And more importantly, not just arranging the Tech Conclave, but for titling it Next Gen Technologies for Digital Government. And the reason for that, I'll explain that personal joke between me and her on that for this year's Tech Conclave. Because I believe it signals that it understands very well the challenges and opportunities that face us or are presented to us as a government, and the need to, in a sense, and I use the phrase that Daisy used, reimagine government for the future. And I think it is also very appropriate that we are attending a Tech Conclave that talks about next-gen technologies, that talks about digital government, at a time when we are celebrating 75 years of our independence and looking forward to the next 25 years as an independent nation. And we are looking back on our governance, our democracy, how far we have traveled, how little we have traveled in some cases, and looking forward to how far we must travel. I have been aware of NIC in many ways from my early days as an entrepreneur. When I used to walk up to those days, I think it was called, not Department of Electronics, it was called something else. Technology into government and governance. And so in a lot of ways, anticipating, planning for the future of technology for government is embedded in the DNA of NIC. And it has traveled through many interesting innovation cycles over the last many years. You have captured some of the history of NIC in that, because it will be certainly interesting. Services, email services, to now much more complex platforms and solutions of the kind that Dr. Deshpande mentioned. Since 2014, when our Honorable Prime Minister launched Digital India, India has obviously become one of the preeminent nations of the world in the deployment of technology in governance. And it is worth recalling what the objectives of the Honorable Prime Minister were when he launched Digital India. And there were three broad objectives that he outlined. He wanted technology to transform the lives of the citizens, i.e. technology should transform governance and democracy. Second, he wanted technology to expand the economy and create more opportunities. And third, he wanted, in the area of technology, as he looked forward from 2014, that India ought to play a leadership role in how the future of technology evolves by some world-beating, world-leading capabilities and capacities that we built in our nation. And in the context of digital government, if you see the first objective of transforming citizens' lives, and I think just a few months ago I spoke here in the context of I think the UIDAI program, I think it was the same building, same place, and I said the same thing. If you look at the last 6 to 7 years of how decisively technology has altered the narrative of government and governance, using tools that were Aadhaar based like JDY, the JAM Trinity, the ability to deliver subsidies remotely, bringing government and citizen closer, taking the whole concept of distrust from government away to one that is more of trust and responsiveness. All of that has been delivered by technology. So it is not an empty boast, or nor is it simply admiration when countries around the world and people around the world look at India and say it is certainly one of the countries that is the preeminent country in terms of deploying technology for the benefit of its people and for improving governance. And we are now on the 699 days left of the 1,000 days. One of the important elements on that was digital government, digital Nagrik. And I will explain to you in a few points about why that is important and why this reimagining of government and the increased digitization of government places NIC in an extremely important position, presenting to NIC the opportunity to really be the force multiplier and the catalyst for this wave of change and reimagination of government and technology. Now, why this need to reimagine government? Why this need for digital government? Why can't we continue with what we know in the past of e-governance and the pace at which we are deploying technology? And I think Daisy mentioned this. It is clear that during COVID, it is clear from our experiences during COVID, it is clear from the new normal post-COVID that India has a tremendous opportunity from an economic standpoint to take advantage of the shifting sands in the global value chains of electronics and technology. That opportunity is a real opportunity, and in the ministry, for those who are aware, and for those who are not, I will share this with you, that we have created a $1 trillion digital economy roadmap, of which almost 300 billion, and we were just having a chat leading up to this conference, conservative, and maybe we should be upping the number to a number larger than 300 billion to 400 billion. So, in a nutshell, what I'm saying to you is, one of the realities in this post-COVID new world order is that India has this huge opportunity, and it is an opportunity that is not a permanent opportunity, it's an opportunity that is there with a small window of opportunity for us to be expanding our digital economy very rapidly and very fast. To achieve that, we clearly need to be a government, we need to have a government that is more responsive, faster, much more efficient in terms of policy making, and to address the issue of inclusion, which again a number of speakers before me spoke about, which is to bridge the remaining deficit, the distance deficit between government and those citizens who are far away, by expanding our digital connectivity and the internet, the connected population on the internet. We are at 800 million, 80 crore Indians today online. I think Daisy said 75 crores, but last time I checked, I think the number from TRA was 80 crores. And in a short while from now, we will be, in the next 2 years, as BharatNet kicks in and that whole, the world's largest rural broadband network project rolls out, we will have over 1 billion Indians, 1.2 billion Indians online. So if you assemble these ducks in a row, or you assemble these opportunities, one is this growing digital economy opportunity, the second is the need for government to become more efficient, and third, the fact that more and more of India's consumers, India's citizens, India's businesses are going to be online and seeking more responsiveness and efficiency from their government. It is clear that we need to accelerate and we need to deeply embed more and more technology into government, and in a few weeks from now, you will see from NIC this whole launch of the architecture of digital government and this new digital government vision in terms of what is expected of the digitization of government in the coming years, and how the efficacy of government policies and government programs can be made much more efficient and much more vectored and directed if this data is available in one place, shared with analytics, data science and AI as layers on top of that, in addition to traditional data management. Going forward from that data point again, there's a requirement within the digital government framework to look at all of government data storage, data access, the rules for data management, how do you create data sets that can be then exploited if they're anonymized, what standards to apply, all of that to make the government as an entity much more efficient and much more data driven. So, given this as a backdrop, and the point that I said about NIC being the centerpiece of this digital government transformation and reimagination, it is clear that NIC will need to be extremely focused on the technologies that are relevant to this digital government paradigm and architecture. And I'm actually very glad that the program talks a lot about the cloud, it talks about databases, it talks about storage, AI. All of these technologies are absolutely relevant. And let me just quickly end by saying that the future of the digital government paradigm and architecture in government will be driven largely by secure cloud technologies, intranets, mobile access, resilience, intelligence systems, and most importantly, if not equally importantly, the issue of inclusion and availability of government communication and schemes and programs in multiple languages. The technologies for this type of new architecture exist. I think to a large extent these are technologies that already exist. Some of these technologies are emerging technologies, and in most of the projects that NIC is going to work on, including the digital government, which includes e-parliament, the government.intranet, you can look forward to these new areas of technology playing a very, very significant role. So I will end by saying that I think the theme for this conclave is a very, very apt theme. It's the right time for NIC to be emerging as a catalyst and the force multiplier and the driver for this new wave of digitization and the new architecture for digital government that makes government closer to its citizens, makes the offerings of the government more inclusive, and makes the government more efficient and transparent and data-driven. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
A token of gratitude and appreciation to May I request you, Memento to Secretary Mighty Shri K. Radharaman. We present a token of gratitude to Additional Secretary Mighty, Dr. Rajendra. and we present a token of gratitude to Mr. Deshpande. Thank you, Mr. Mishra, for doing the honors. May I now invite Ms. to the honors of presenting the token of gratitude to our special guest. Thank you, ma'am. May all Thank you, ma'am, for doing the honors. And now, ladies and gentlemen, may I request Ms. Rachna Srivastava, DDG, NIC, Member Technology Advisory.
It's lucky day मेरा बर्थडे भी है आज और सबसे मिलना होगा तो अगर पॉसिबल हुआ ना I just want to share my experience of arthritis and cure for 2 minutes अगर पॉसिबल हो तो आप देख लीजिए ठीक है
जी सर बहुत बहुत थैंक यू थैंक यू